Being in the public spotlight is a curse and a blessing, and without a doubt, NFL players are thrust into that spotlight. Sometimes for good reasons and sometimes for not so good reasons. As much as I am sure that the NFL players who have gone from rags to riches aren't in any hurry to trade in their fortunes for their privacy back, it's hard to imagine that there aren't moments that they wish they could drift back into anonymity, at least to have a break from the mayhem here and there. This rings especially true when players end up embroiled in embarrassing situations, which because of their profession often become comedic fodder for the public. The worst part of it is that sometimes it isn't even their fault. Sometimes it's just wrong place, wrong time. And Elvis Grbac, a former NFL quarterback who had a nice 8-year career playing for the Kansas City Chiefs, 49ers, and Baltimore Ravens, is one of those guys who, through no fault of his own, ended up in a pretty embarrassing switch-up that has since been aired out for the entire world to see. The incident in question happened back in 1998 while Grbac was in Kansas City on his second of 3 NFL stops. Elvis was coming off of the best season of his young career in 1997 and was starting to gain notoriety. Now it's important to understand that relative anonymity that Elvis ascended from. Before 1997, he was just Steve Young's backup quarterback, who had thrown just 2 more touchdowns than interceptions in his career. More so, to many, he was just the guy who backed up Steve Young or that quarterback from the University of Michigan who played with Desmond Howard. But in Week 2 of 1997, that would all change. In his second game since replacing Steve Bono as the Chiefs' starting signal caller, Elvis led Kansas City into a Monday Night Football matchup with the Oakland Raiders. The Chiefs were trailing by 2 touchdowns late in the game, and he rallied the team, orchestrating an epic comeback that he capped off with a 32-yard touchdown pass to Andre Rison, with just 3 seconds left to steal the game from the Raiders. Elvis would capitalize on this momentum and ended up going 8-2 as a starter that year, putting up the best statistics of his career. Needless to say, he was just starting to make a name for himself. And while his 1997 campaign was excellent, he was still far from an A-list celebrity. So it is safe to assume that even Elvis himself was probably surprised when he got a call from People magazine to inform him that he had won People magazine's 1998 Sexiest Athlete Award, and they wanted to fly out to take a photo shoot of him. Far be it from me to be dismissive of his appearance. The guy stands about 6'5", is a professional quarterback, and by all accounts was an all-around good dude, so I'm sure he did fine for himself. But that being said, he was by no means a Jimmy G or anything like that. Think about some of the names that have taken home the People's Award. Cristiano Ronaldo, who has millions of followers on social media and has been in a bevy of underwear advertisements. David Beckham, who is widely considered to be one of the best-looking people on the planet. And then there's Elvis. One of these things is not like the other. So, like I said, he was probably pleasantly surprised when he got the call informing him that he took home such a flattering award. The only problem? It turns out the folks over at People magazine, well, they don't know a ton about sports. Okay, that might be an understatement. It turns out that when the team at People magazine sent their interviewer and photographer out to take pictures for the piece, they told him that the winner of the award was the Chiefs quarterback. I guess they forgot to specify which quarterback, though, as Rich Gannon was on the roster, and I'm not going to get into comparing the two fellows, but the editor at People definitely chose Gannon for a reason. Anyways, once the photographer got back to the New York offices and presented his work to the editors, they were shocked and confused as they scanned through the batch of photos. Who was this man with a goofy smile and a thinning mop of curly hair? How could this be their sexiest athlete? After some brief deductive reasoning, they realized the mistake that had been made and they were understandably embarrassed. It isn't like People magazine is known for their comprehensive sports coverage, but you would expect an esteemed organization like this to at least be able to make sure they photographed the right guy. The editors decided that they had to call an audible and give Elvis the award anyway. None of them cared to be the one that had to break the news to Elvis that he had won by mistake, and that the photo shoot that he took time out of his day to partake in was headed straight to the trash. I don't necessarily blame them for not wanting to have that conversation. It would have definitely been awkward, but you have to think that they might have had someone over there in the middle management that they could have strong-armed into telling Grbac the bad news. I don't know how the story ultimately got out, but it did. And I'd imagine that Elvis would have probably preferred to have been told beforehand that it was a mistake, rather than publicly finding out through the grapevine. In all honesty, both parties were probably pretty embarrassed by the situation as a whole, albeit for vastly different reasons. But think about how much worse this would have been for them if it happened during the social media era. It was basically the 1998 equivalent of Steve Harvey's infamous gaffe at the 2015 Miss Universe contest. You know, when Harvey mistakenly announced the wrong winner and more or less set the entire internet on fire as everyone rushed to get jokes off.
I have to apologize. The first runner-up is Colombia. Miss Universe 2015 is Philippines.
Similarly, the internet was quick to laugh at Grbac when the story made its rounds on the internet a few years back, despite the fact that the incident in question happened over a decade prior. Still, he's lucky that there is such a significant time gap to let the story cool off, or the number of commenters on Gbac's story could have been exponentially greater. Not only is the story a pretty hilarious mix-up, but the pictures they took of Grbac would have instantly become premium meme material. I'm talking about Crying Jordan or OK Boomer levels of viral, and those two are essentially the pinnacle for a meme. During their prime, you couldn't scroll through any medium of social media for more than a minute without coming across a reference to one of these. That would have been Elvis's life. What an awful turn of events for the quarterback. One second he was all pumped up that he was selected as 1998's sexiest athlete. The next, he's a punchline. Life can be so cruel. Their mistakes weren't even limited to their inability to photograph the right quarterback for their award, or to at least be able to keep the blunder in-house. The mix-up itself was pretty bad, but what was worse was the way that People magazine attempted to try and right the ship. Instead of either being honest with him or committing to him as a selection, the editors decided to publish the most backhanded award write-up of all time. Despite being a rather short entry, the paragraph is loaded with tidbits that are so cringeworthy. The excess of cringe hits especially hard once you know the backstory too. It honestly would have been better if they published the photographs without any words at all. Check out some of these quotes that they gathered from people that knew Grbac personally. The article starts off modestly describing him as a stalwartly handsome guy with a crew cut and a chiseled jaw, but it is all downhill from there. His teammate Paula McDaniels described him as a regular guy who has a family and goes to work Monday through Friday. I don't think you'd ever guess he plays football. In a sport filled with athletes that resemble Greek gods more than human beings, suggesting he doesn't even look like a football player could be construed as being a tad bit offensive. How about his former coach at Michigan, Jerry Hanlon? Sure, his coach would have had something nice to say about him. Nope. Instead, he told People, I never pictured Elvis as a ladies' man. Sure, Elvis was a happily married man, but still, what kind of a comment is that for a sexiest man write-up? Regardless of how the signal caller was with the ladies, there had to be something better that Hanlon could have mustered up. Finally, the editors reached out to Gbac's wife, Lori, to find out exactly what makes her professional athlete hubby so sexy. Her answer? His personality makes him sexy. Ouch. After a comment like that, I'm genuinely surprised that old Elvis ever made it out of the friend zone with Lori. It sounds like she is describing her best guy friend that she goes shopping with, not her husband. Although when you look at some of the still shots of Grbac, her comments unfortunately make a lot of sense. While the comments aren't malicious or anything, when they are juxtaposed with the way that other winners of the award were described, it is painfully clear that there was little to no confidence in the selection. Former NFL running back Ricky Williams won the following year, and he was described as the good-hearted guy every woman was looking for. One time he was dating 4 or 5 girls at once. Dan Lebatard went as far as saying, women lunge at him as if by catapult. Or how about professional tennis player Patrick Rafter, who won the award the year before Grbac? He was dated a succession of Dutch models and having hordes of teenage girls and young women mob him after each match. That is a pretty significant difference from never pictured him as a ladies' man. It's pretty unfair what the editors at People did to him. Based on the way that they spun the article, it seems like once People magazine realized its mistake, it decided to try and make the write-up as understated as humanly possible in the hopes that no one would question the magazine for its selection and uncover what had happened. It was a cover-up for the ages. It wasn't even just the writing that did Elvis in. They also used a preposterously awkward cover photo for the article. Elvis is sitting with his knee pulled to his chest on a bench in a cluttered locker room, looking like he just got a quick workout at the local Y before heading off to his mediocre job at the local accounting firm. It isn't even really his fault. The picture was set up to fail. I mean, the guy is just sitting there, barefoot in a loose-fitting gray t-shirt and weathered blue jeans. It was a far cry from a glamorous photo shoot. It's almost like they tried to make him look as bland as possible. And this all happened because the editors were so uninformed and disinterested by sports. Jeff Pearlman, who broke the story, attributed the entire debacle to this, saying, back in the day I knew many People staffers, and they were all cool, fun, intelligent, and woefully ignorant about sports. Every year in planning the Sexiest Men issue, People's editors would ask a bunch of us at Sports Illustrated for suggestions and insight. In 1998, for a reason I'll never understand, they decided not to seek out help. Hindsight is 20/20, but I'd wager that they probably wish that they had have just sought outside counsel on this one. But alas, they didn't, and now for the rest of eternity, Elvis Grbac will have the distinction of being the sexiest athlete of 1998, and no one can take that away from him. In his retirement, Grbac started a new career as a motivational speaker. He travels around and gives speeches at a number of different universities and conferences, and I wonder if this charming anecdote ever makes the cut as a talking point. If you're new here and you haven't subscribed yet, now's a great time to do that by clicking the subscribe button down below. If you like the video, then like the video. We'd really appreciate that. And last but not least, don't forget to tune in to TPS every single day for more cool videos.